to a show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Off the Mats podcast. I was just about to go into the horror podcast too, because I was like, still, and then I was like, shit. I do this every episode, and I've been good about it. But yeah, welcome back, y'all. We're here on Off the Mats, and this week's guest is a good friend of mine, a teammate, and a friend to the podcast, y'all. So, you know, he's familiar. Everybody know this guy. I know this guy. We love this guy. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Joe Huggins. What's up, son?
What's up, Dante, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I'm always love coming on here talking with you. It's always a pleasure. You know, I think this is probably my 5th or 6th episode now.
Yeah, you'll get
and it's funny. I probably the last one we did when I was with Mark and Mahoney. That's the only one I've actually listened to. I hate hearing myself. So I've actually never listened to any of the episodes I've done with you.
Yeah, trust me. I don't listen. I listen to them to do the edits.
Yeah,
but
I listen to everybody else's. I like Coach Nils and Sergio's and some of the other guests. I'm finding new people, but when it gets to me, I just skip it. I'm like, nah, I don't want to hear myself talk.
Same here. I do that with Nerd Rage Radio. Anytime I go on there, it's like I don't listen to it. And the big excuse for me is like, well, I was there. I know what we said.
Yeah,
I don't got to hear it again. Yeah. So. But thank you for making the time. I know you busy with getting ready for your fight coming up. So I was like, shit, it might be too late. I don't want to get him too late. So I'm glad you're able to make the time, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. I'm supposed to also link up with Eli, just getting in the promotion for the fight. It's my first MMA fight in 4 years now. So it's a bit of a comeback for me now. Getting back in the groove of things. Back into my passion, it's kind of like where I started, and it's kind of like, everyone's like, hey, didn't you used to do that thing? Like you're pretty good at that thing. Like, why'd you stop? And I was like,
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with MMA, with striking in general. It's like my first thought is like, well, why'd you stop? Well, CTE is a thing. When you get hit in the head for a living, that's you can only do that for so long, but you stay within the art though. You've been sticking with jiu-jitsu and coaching and everything, so you're still here. This is like riding a bike for you, getting back on the bike and just saying, okay, pedal, go.
I feel refreshed because my last fight I had a big injury. I was just a little burnt out. I had been doing it for a while. I had some personal drama and stuff going on, affecting me. And so I think I needed that break. I needed time to first step away from everything and just kind of recenter myself, figure myself out as a person, and then fall back in love with martial arts. I was not, it got to the point where it was like a chore. I wasn't enjoying it. It was just like, I got to do this thing because it's what I do. It's what people expect of me. It wasn't what I love to do, So, just took some reevaluation and, figured myself out. I got really heavy into grappling, as you know. And I believe I improved a lot of my areas there. And, now I feel like I'm ready to, bring it back to, my roots.
Good. Yeah, there's a thing about that when it comes to not just martial arts, but anything where you're doing it. And initially you're in love with it, you fall in love with this thing and you're doing it, and then there's this weird transition where it feels like it's a task that you have to do. It's not fun, it's a job even, and it's like, man. So yeah, taking that step away, definitely it's a good thing. So I'm glad you're able to see that, because there are folks that they go through that and they don't realize that that's exactly what it is. It's like a little burnout. So they end up saying like, oh, I have to just quit altogether. But in reality, it's just sometimes take a step back, or maybe do something else for a minute, but you love this and you're going to be back. So I'm glad you're back, dude.
Yeah, man, it
Like,
feels good. Well, I mean, it didn't feel good at first, getting back into, the old training regimens and everything. It kicked my butt, the first couple of weeks, but I've acclimated. I've made some improvements, or, I'm starting to shake the rust off, so it feels good.
good. So as you mentioned, getting back into it in just those first couple of weeks, like, kind of like walk us through that a little bit. Like, like tell us about the despair coming back to it, and then the beauty of just readjusting.
It was definitely a grind. I approached my coaches and asked what they expected of me, and we kind of laid out a game plan. And there's a difference because I was, I'm in good shape. I'm in decent shape. I'm a trainer. I work out regularly. I train regularly. I was in good jujitsu shape. But that's not MMA shape. Jiu-jitsu shape is not MMA shape. So, not to take away from that or anything, but the wrestling, the up and down, the grind, the physicality. We're like in each other's faces, and I'm like, I guess the way they jiu-jitsu, when I spar, when I go for rounds, it's not really about winning or losing. It's just like I'm just trying stuff. I'm just like, it's cool if I get the sweeps or the submissions or the good positions, but like I'm just doing my game plan. Whereas you're sparring and training MMA, like it's a little more serious. Like you're training to win, so like you're trying to win your practice rounds, you're trying to win your drilling, you're trying to outdo everybody. So I had to wake that like competitive side of me kind of back up. It was kind of dormant a little bit.
Understandable. And for this fight coming up, it's going to be stellar fights, correct?
Yep,
In
Stellar Fight
Delaware.
61. That's where I started. Um, my first three fights were up there with them, and they're happy to have me back. I'm glad to be at the card again. They've always been good to me. And yeah, I think it's good opportunities for the lightweight title on their amateur side of things. And I've been training really hard and then staying hungry, getting after it.
Good, good. Uh, and I don't want to be like, hey, so what's your game plan? I don't want to put your shit out there like that. But I know with you, you know, in recent years, kind of leaning heavy into your grappling a lot more. Um, for your fights in the past versus coming up now, and I know 4 years ago is a long time ago versus now, which you're upcoming. You know, how much do you think your grappling experience now that you've gained over those years are going to be a bigger factor in this fight, or is this kind of like, what, I'm gonna have that in my pocket if I need it, but I hope not to have to need it.
It's interesting because I always try to stay well rounded. I like to be the type of fighter where, like, wherever you put me, I can adapt and adjust my game plan. The first I guess martial art I ever did was boxing, so I've always led with my hands. But I'm much more comfortable on the ground or like in a clinch type situation. If it gets to that, I don't panic. Actually feel on the offensive, and even my submissions, I feel like I've tightened those up a little bit. I obviously have so much more to learn and add to my game and my skill and my repertoire because I'm still at the lower parts of my career, as you would call it. Um, but I feel like I have advanced enough to where I feel pretty confident in my grappling abilities, and I hope to showcase that the most in this next fight of how well I can grapple and hopefully maybe even pull off a submission for this fight.
Okay, good, good. And as far as your grappling goes and just being on the match jiu-jitsu wise, kind of falling back into that arena, how's that been for you? Just when you move back to primarily jiu-jitsu, um was there still a hunger, even though you might have fallen out of love with MMA, was there still kind of a slight hunger there, as you're grappling, and doing competitions and stuff?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I think my time, focusing on my jujitsu and grappling, it helped me, just get used to competition. I never lost, that feeling of, having to stare another person down from the other side, and we're physically going at each other, in some form of combat. So that's always been fresh, and just because I'm not punching somebody doesn't mean I'm not working as hard as I can to dominate them in whatever rule set I'm given. So it's all the same. It's just different rules, different rule types, and different strategies according to that. Um, but I think it's good to have a base and a strength. I know in my earlier training days, I was just kind of like, taking bits and pieces from everywhere. I was kind of doing some of everything. It wasn't really centralized. I was just kind of, you know, the kid who was, tough, and, I knew a little bit of something here and something there. And I think it was, I needed to centralize and, have a good base. That way, worst case scenario, I got something like, hey, I know, like, I can do this. Worst case scenario, I'm on my butt. I can grapple. I can, at least, get back to my feet, wrestle, hold on to them. I have something that I know that I can rely on.
Good, good. Yeah, when you're at the Naga out here in Baltimore, uh, I think that might have been the first time. Like, well, that was the first time I even been out to a competition in years. With my old work schedule, I was always working on Saturdays,
Yeah.
and I was just never able to get out to anything. So, seeing you at the Naga and competing, you know, it was a good feeling. Just like seeing everybody, seeing Mark compete, seeing you compete, seeing the kids competing. I was like, God damn, dude, this is so awesome. But
No, I had a really good time that day, and that was just because I got to see everybody, like the whole team from like all three locations, and just like
Mhm.
not even just Crazy 88, just like Maryland grapplers. Like it was like pretty much just a Maryland grappling fest, and it was just good to see that many people, see so many old friends. I saw like I hadn't seen you in person. I don't know how long. Because we go through our gaps. And it was just good vibes, and like I said, I enjoyed competing. I got to have a lot of friends and family out there, and I got I like showcasing my skill, and I got it done.
Yeah, it was funny. Just like there's I mean, there's just so many different things I saw you doing. I was just like, damn, dude, like you hit the dude with the collar drag, which then kind of brought like that, put that in my mindset. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot. That's just such an available thing. And butterfly sweep, like just seeing like things like that where it's like these are fundamental things. I wouldn't even say fundamental, but these are things that we've worked on for years and years and years, and it's like now in our um grappling lives, it's like it's almost kind of stuff that we don't necessarily touch upon anymore. And then seeing you in competition, hit the collar drag, hit a butterfly sweep, and just you know being a unique grappler, using what you know now and then bringing back some of the old school stuff that we've learned before. And it's like, damn, dude, that made me feel good, just knowing it's like, oh shit, it's like it's okay to like actually rely on just a real well-rounded game where you're like, because there are times where like I'm grappling in the gym, and it's like, oh shit, I got to do stuff that we just learned, which you
Yeah.
should be working on things you just learned. But it's like, it's like, hey, don't forget you do know other things. So, again, just seeing you showcase, just jujitsu in general, like all types of like different styles. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm glad I made it out here for that, for that competition to see everyone, but also, it was good to see, like I said, like friends, like old friends grappling, because, you know, when see each other in the gym, it's one thing. We're going against each other, we're cheering each other on in the gym, but we're also kind of, working against each other. And it's like, if you hit me with a butterfly sweep, I'm like, oh, nice sweep. But I'm be like, I'm gonna be a little salty. Like, damn, I forgot. But then see you do it on somebody else, it's like, oh yeah, 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 son. Like, there you go. Like, don't do that shit to me though. But I was glad to see that, man. It was good.
Yeah, man, appreciate that. Yeah, man, it was fun, and I feel like I always have my go tos, or like, I sometimes have to remind myself like, hey, like in the midst of learning this, encyclopedia of jujitsu, because that's the problem. It keeps evolving. It's not even the same as it was like 5 years ago. You know, and so there's just more you have to learn in order to be successful at the higher levels, because everybody's doing new stuff. You got to at least know what to watch out for. But in that, you can't forget who you are. You can't forget, what you're good at, your strengths, and I feel like it goes hand in hand. You learn and you evolve and you keep up with the changing elements, so that you know what to look for, so that you're like positionally aware, and you know how to defend. But that also, once I've always been a focus on my defense, in any martial art. Defense first, but I can protect myself. Once I feel safe and comfortable, I can attack, and take that for what it is. I don't know if that's exposing myself or not, whatever. That's just naturally who I know who I am as a martial artist and as a person. I always, prioritize my defense over my offense. Um,
Yeah,
and like I said, I've kept up with the new stuff, learned how to at least defend it, or at least recognize it, so that I can like attempt to get out of it. And then once I feel secure, I've learned to be aggressive, and be able to flip that switch to know, all right, I'm safe now. I find the opening for my attacks.
yeah. I'm similar in that where I learn a lot of stuff just for the ideal of defending it. Just knowing that, okay, I know what this looks like. I know what you're going for. And then later on, then turn into, okay, now that I know what this is, I need to utilize it as a weapon myself. Like that lately, and Mark kind of gives me shit about it, but I've been using wrist locks quite a bit lately, mostly
Yeah,
on white belts, like like white belts, and you gotta learn, you gotta learn somewhere. So take the
yeah.
white belts, wrist lock them. Um, I think we're not supposed to really be wrist locking white belts, but some of those kids are bigger than me, man. I got to defend
If they're a
myself.
phase belt, they can get wrist locked.
Oh yeah, the phase belts. I mean, yeah, the phase belts. I see that. I'm like, oh, like
Yeah.
you know better,
I
but
won't
like,
mess with the white belts, but if I can, if I know you've been at least training for a while, or you're a phase belt, like you, you can take it. You're good.
well, hey, I don't wrist lock first week white belts. Okay, just like relax. But like, so like, there's a couple of those those wrestlers. Those kids are huge. I'm like, nah. Like, I can't Kimura you. You strong. You got bigger muscles than me. Like, but I'm gonna wrist lock you because you don't know any better. And you know, I wear this badge of honor because
Yeah.
I'm a monster. But yeah, it's like grappling and just really kind of putting it all together. There is kind of a magic to it. Some folks, they just come right out with the attacks right away as soon as they learn to move. Myself, I learn it, and it's more so just I want to be able to recognize it and defend it and make sure, like, okay, I know you know this, I know it as well, but I'm not going to let you get it. Then eventually, yeah, you get to that point where it's like, all right, you hit that switch. It's like, okay, now I feel safe. I feel comfortable doing it. And there, there's a thing about that too when it comes to, like, being comfortable in your defense, because if you miss something, let's say you go for um a risky move, and you miss it, you're still comfortable in the ideal that you could defend and get yourself back to base. So, you know, it's solid.
Yeah, no, I spent years getting my butt kicked. Like like I like seeking out the hard matches. So I'll call out the upper belts, or like the other competitors on the team, and I'll get smashed. Like there was like a whole year straight where like Oscar and Byung were just like choking me out like round after round after round, to the point where like I got really good at defending chokes from the back. So now at this point, like my back defense is on point. So like I will say there's something to attest for it. I feel like I'm not that easy to submit, and you can ask my teammates, my coaches, anybody I train with. Like, I make you work if you're gonna try and put me down.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, early on, you're always my favorite role because it was like it was never like none of the roles are ever easy. So I don't want to sound like that, but it's like role like any rounds with you felt like you know like the we're in front of like a live studio audience with the world championship on the line and it's like and the thing is after we get done rolling slap hands, we're like all right cool, move on with our day, everything's
Yeah.
cool. But if anyone from the outside is watching that, they're like, yo, that shit looks personal. It's like no, it's like I'm it's like when I go with you, I have to keep pace. It's
Yeah.
like you're moving, so I have to stay with you. Whereas, like, when there are like other grapplers that are more like, all right, let me, you know, get the position, kind of, work my way here, like slowly but surely. And, it for me, it would seem like okay, that's comfortable for me because I get to kind of go slower. But me going slower, it's like I get like kind of like complacent, and then that's when I get caught. When I'm going with you, it's like I have to like be on my toes nonstop. It's like shit. Like then it gets to a point where it's like, look, I just want to catch this dude. Like I just want to like wrap him up and like slow him down just for a second. I need to like wrap his legs up. Oh shit, I can't wrap his legs up. Okay, cool. Like, oh, cool, I got a Kimura. Oh fuck. He ain't gonna tap to that. His shoulder is like bending all the way around his body. It's like fucking Mr. Fantastic. Like, all right, well, what do we do here? Let's go ahead and just get back to our feet, work. More often than not, you hit a fucking double leg on me, and I just feel like a doofus. I'm like, okay, like, this is all part of the journey. This is part of the lesson. But I love rounds with you. You know, Sooner or later, I get back out there to those late night classes. My kid is getting older enough now. I think she can start staying home by herself. I don't know what the legal age is for a kid to stay home by themselves at night, but kid just
Yeah.
turned 8, so I think I'm like a year away, maybe. I don't know. But a more pressing matter has come to my mind here that I need to pick your brain on real quick.
Sure.
Um, Kendrick and Drake, they seem to be upset with each other. Fuck is that all about? Like my wife and I last night, when I got back from watching the game, I get back home and I was playing Euphoria, and I says to my wife was like, okay, so I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I think these cats is mad at each other. And like I'm late
It
to the
got
party.
personal, man.
Well, yeah, like listening to Meet the Grams, I was like, ooh, that don't sound like
They're
that sounds hurtful.
major
Um
crimes.
Yeah, yeah. It was like like we sat down last night and went through the like we found a Billboard magazine article, went through the history of this beef. And it's like, okay, this is going back like 2013. Like, okay, like all right, and then it was like, well, catch me up to now. Catch me up to now. I was like, okay, J. Cole and Drake dropped the song. Okay, like oh, Kendrick replied, okay, didn't seem too hateful. And then Drake came back and was like, okay, this is getting a little unnecessary. Then Kendrick was like, okay, we're gonna make it personal.
Yeah.
And I'm dumbfounded. But I'm entertained at the same time. But
No,
usually
it was definitely entertaining.
like I like musically, like I come to him like, okay, hey Joe, what's going on with these guys? So I was like, let me just real quick, like pick your brain there for a second, then we're gonna move on.
I enjoyed, it as a whole. I don't think I chose a particular side, I enjoy both artists. I think when it comes to lyricism and, thoughtfulness of music and just artistry, yeah, that's why I like Kendrick. I listen to him when I want, something a little deeper. Drake is cool to vibe to. Say what you will. I don't, call him soft, call him, love song. I don't know, but like, he makes hits. He's a pop star. Like he makes good songs. I listen to his music. It is what it is. I don't believe, the claims that either of them were making of each other. Like, there might be a little bit of truth here and there, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like they were just, it's to keep us entertained. At the end of the day, we gave them streams, we, gave them attention, we kept them relevant.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. It's like between the two of them, it's like Drake. He's going to give you hits. You know, he's a pop star. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's your job. That's his. His intent is to make music and people make music for people to enjoy. So you got that. And then on Kendrick's side, it's like you get something. Yeah, it's a little deeper with Kendrick. There's symbolism in a lot of his songs. It's
And don't get
like
me wrong, he
okay,
makes some bops. Like, I can get down. Like,
yeah,
some of a lot of music, like I can just like vibe to, or like he has verses or features on like other songs that are like, just kind of like vibing songs. You don't not really deep thought, but if I'm looking to, just feel my conscious self, whatever you want to call it, I'll throw them on.
it's definitely like if I'm gonna listen to Kendrick, I'm in a certain kind of mindset. Versus if I'm gonna listen to Drake, it's like it's just kind of on like the kind of like I'm cruising. I'm going somewhere, just throwing some Drake just to kind of get me where I need to be. But if I'm on one of those car rides where it's like I got to get into some deep thought, all right, let's throw on Kendrick. Or sometimes I might not even put on no music. I might just be sitting there. That's when it's dangerous. If I'm just driving with no music, either I got my ass whipped in class to a point where I got to think about life, or some shit went down in life, and I'm like, I got to go on this. And I mean, gas ain't how it used to be, where you could go on those like
Yeah, no,
strange
I ain't got
car
time for that. I
rides.
sit in my car for a while, no music, but I ain't driving. I'm driving with a purpose.
Yeah, like normally, like my purpose is getting home, and I'll sit out in the parking lot, out in front of the house for about 25 minutes. It's
Yeah.
like just in a deep thought. My daughter looks out the window, like, "Dad's home." It's like,
I ain't got time to be taking wrong turns and missing exits. Like,
oh yeah, gas at a point right now that you hit a wrong turn somewhere. It's like, I might not financially recover from this shit. Hey, like, let me pull over real quick. So, but yeah, I figure it was like, yeah, let me go ahead somewhere along this line, like bring this up because everyone that I've had on is like, I just got a feeling this ain't gonna be the place for this conversation. Cats on here talk about mindset coaching and and positivity is like, okay. Guess I can't ask you guys about the beef between Drake and Kendrick Lamar right now. All right, that's cool. No big
no,
deal. All
it's
right, happy.
entertaining. It's cool to see, both perspectives. Obviously, a lot of people accuse Drake of, pandering to the black community while, benefiting from, his, white side or whatever. Or but at the same time, I'm like, what is I mean, why is it his fault that he's biracial, Like
Well, I mean, and that's also I think another thing with it too is like, okay, he's biracial. I mean, like when it comes to hip hop, you're entertaining, you're writing, and the audience that picks you up. I mean, that's who picks you up. You know, like there's always been an issue with Eminem. Folks get mad at Eminem, and it's like, look, man. I mean, white folks, black folks, all folks love
and I might
Eminem.
get, I have a lot of friends that would probably say I'm wrong, but at the end of the day, talent is talent, regardless
Yeah,
of how much melanin is in your skin. Like I get
yeah,
it. Like, if from a historical standpoint, it was something that, we as a people cultivated and created and became a culture. But the whole point of culture is to share it, you know?
exactly. I mean,
Um, and from my perspective, rappers like Eminem or other, similar to him, have always been respectful and
mhm.
acknowledged, their roots, where they came from, who helped them along the way. Like, I feel like we got to get past the surface of this stuff and like look at the, I know it sounds corny, but like, listen to what they're saying. Look at the inside. Look at their character. Like,
Well, and that's a big thing of it too. Is just like you said, the character, and also the respect for it. It's like if you come into, any genre of music, and you look at the artists that have come before and where the roots of that genre of music comes from. You know, don't shit on it. Come in there, you know, pay your tributes, make your music, entertain the crowds, and still be cool about it. And again, folks can say Drake is corny. Folks can say they don't like Drake, but I mean, the thing is, he's undeniable. You know,
Yeah.
he's making the hits. He's putting asses in seats. He's getting the crowds riled up. And I mean the same thing on Kendrick's side. It's like, you know, he may not, you know, be the world renowned like Drake, but that's not what he's making his music for. He's not
I
making
mean,
his
I mean,
music.
he did get a Pulitzer Prize, but I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like it's one of those things though where you look at it, it's like, you take Kendrick to, I don't know, Japan. He's gonna have some fans there. Take Drake to
right. But he's not
Japan.
gonna do like Drake numbers.
Yeah, and the thing is though, at the end of the day, when you look at them as artists, it's like, are they doing their job? Are they entertaining? Yeah. Well, you know, we can't really hate on either one. So
Yeah.
I'm, I don't want nobody to be mad at nobody, but to some extent, I'm glad they beefing because I'm entertained as
No,
fuck.
and like a lot of people said, like it's healthy competition. It keeps
Hmm.
things exciting. Like I
Yeah.
do I think on a behind the scenes level, they're probably like huh, 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 this was fun, like whatever. All right, now it's over. Like I'm sure it's all gravy behind the scenes. Like look, like think back to any form of entertainment. Look at like when you had Mayweather and McGregor. You
Hmm.
know, it was all publicity, bro. They were taking the same jet, laughing, after being in each other's face on stage in front of the cameras. It's just again, you putting asses in seats, you're entertaining the people who are paying to watch. And
Yep.
you're not wrong for liking it, and they're not wrong for providing a service.
Correct. Correct. I mean, yeah, and the fight game especially, that's huge because there gets to certain points where you see fighters, really going at each other, and sometimes, like you see a John Jones and a Daniel Cormier, and it's like, they might
I,
just be
I
putting on
think
the
they
act.
really didn't like each other though.
No,
They
yeah,
that
no,
was a real beat.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you look at it, it's like, they might be putting on an act, and then when you get the the little behind the scene ESPN thing where, um, they didn't, whether they knew the cameras were rolling or not, I don't know. But John Jones was like, "You still there, pussy?" And then Daniel, he was like, I don't remember. I think Daniel, one of them said they would spit on the other one. It's like, if you spit on me, I will
I remember
physically
that.
kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, like, like, uh, I'm concerned. Like, should we, like, should but the thing is, now you anticipate that fight so much more because it's like, okay,
Yeah.
but you even had Aldo and McGregor. McGregor got in Aldo's head so much so that Aldo went out
And
there.
it's psychological warfare. It's
Yeah.
part of the fight game. Like if you can break them mentally before you even get in the ring or cage or whatever, then easy. Like your job is already done.
Mm, yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
there's a price to pay for it because, like I said, the more you talk, the more you build yourself up, the more risk you have of fall.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
I mean, you
but
get
at the
guys
same
that
time, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. In this business, you gotta you know be a little loud to get some attention.
that is true. I mean, you got guys that talk all the shit in the world and then come out there and get flatlined immediately. You get guys whose walkout is longer than the fight. You know, all with all the shit, and then you get guys that just kind of like humble. They let the other guy talk. It's like, all right, I ain't got nothing to say, and people are like, like Khabib.
Yeah,
Khabib, he's like, look, I'm just here to work. I ain't trying to talk. Connor out there talking that shit, and in the fight, he's like, oh, it was only business. you know, and Khabib was like, yeah, nah, it ain't
yeah, no.
business, buddy. Like, you don't
No,
talk
or
about
even
my
like
family.
like Nate Diaz, one of my favorite fighters, and never a champion, hadn't okay record, but he talked shit, and then he was always just outspoken and like didn't give a fuck about anybody, anything, flipping people off in the ring, like saying whatever the fuck he wanted at the end of the press conference or whatever, and people paid to watch him, and he had a
Yeah,
long career in the UFC without ever being a champion or anything like that.
yeah. I mean, Chael Sonnen talked his
And I
way
mean, no knock. I mean,
into
like I
a
said,
title
I
fight.
hope to be there one day, or at some capacity. But I'm just saying, like sometimes you just got to be entertaining. You still get the payday or the whatever you're searching for. And at the end of this,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Like for any of your fights, was there any like verbal jabs thrown before any fights?
My first fight, no, I was just focused on fighting. I was just like, yo, like let me just get in here. My second fight, I tried to fight at 145. And I think I missed weight by like a pound. So the fight still happened, but and it could have been the promoter just like trying to make it interesting, or yeah, Brad, I'm talking about you. Um, or he could have actually said this, but he goes, yeah, your opponent says, if an old man can, make weight, then you should have had a, no problem. For some reason that just got to me. I'm like, bro, like I'm over here suffering, dehydrating myself. Yeah, like I wasn't trying. Like, don't talk shit to me right now. Like, and so I took that with me. You were there for that fight. Like I like no mercy. Like I went in after him because I thought he was just like, oh, you want to talk shit? All right, let's go. Like, and then the opposite happened. My third fight with Stellar, dude was super nice. We were like talking before the fight, and like, man, he's a really good dude. I gotta fight him. I gotta put that away. And like, and that one it was a little more back and forth. I won the fight. I got the TKO like in the second round, but that first round, I was like, I wasn't being my angry, like, let me fuck this dude up. I was like, just kind of, just out there. So, I kind of like kept that in mind, as I kept going forward, taking with that from my wins and losses. When I fought down in Virginia for Spartica, they were a little more, flashy with the promotion, so that, they did like, the video reels and the, press conferences and the promo. So, I got to talk a little bit, I had great relationships with all my opponents, there, but, there was a little more, just a little banter back and forth, to make things interesting. But I don't think I'm a huge, shit talker. Like, I just like to let my, actions, let my, skills speak for themselves. But, someone else comes, throwing something at me, that kind of fuels me, and that makes for, a vicious fight.
I mean, as a fight fan, like a longtime fight fan myself personally, is like that's what I'd rather see. Just see the dudes out there working. Just go out there and fight. I know, you know, when the Ultimate Fighter really, really took off in UFC, started hitting like Fox and ESPN. Oh, you had Chael Sonnen, back in the day. Well, even further back, you had Tito and Ken Shamrock talking shit to each other, and then Tito and Chuck Liddell. But when Chael Sonnen, came about, it took on kind of a WWE type, you know, promotional shit talking type thing. I mean, so much so. I mean, he got his fight with Anderson, which he earned his fight with Anderson, and he beat the shit out of Anderson for 4.5 rounds, and he should have been champion, but he just got caught at the end. I mean, that's you know, that's that example of you keep fighting until the bell, and Anderson caught him, with the triangle, but he ended up getting his rematch, and then I think he was on like a losing streak, and he ended up getting a title shot against John Jones. Like he had lost like two in a row, maybe, and they're like, oh, but enough shit talking got him to that title,
Yeah, yeah.
and it pays off. Being that squeaky wheel, being a presence, and not just that though. They know this guy talks shit, but he also delivers. I mean, so there is kind of a hand in hand with
Look
that.
at
It's like,
Bilal Muhammad. He's getting his shot against Leon Edwards now.
yeah,
And
like,
he had the skill to, but he was also like he started chirping a little bit. He had
yeah,
to, get it,
yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, the fight game is an entertainment game. So it's like, you got to do something to, have that. I feel like the fights are, the entertaining part, but for some fighters, it's like, oh, that's not entertaining. Like, it was like for a long time with Khabib. That was kind of a thing. It's like, oh, he's just gonna grapple these dudes down to the ground. But there gets to a point where it's like you can't deny, a good fighter.
yeah,
Even if they aren't a shit talker, it's like, I mean, Kobe Covington almost got like I think there's a misunderstanding. I think people are saying he almost got cut from UFC. It's like I don't think he was going to get cut. I mean, it's a cut, I guess, but they just weren't going to renew his contract. His contract was coming up, I believe,
yeah.
and they were like, we're just not going to resign this dude because he's born. And then he was like, okay. They sent him down to Brazil, and he talked all the shit, and they're like, okay, like resign him,
All right,
and
there we go.
here we are. like we got him because I mean he's always been a good fighter, like
Yeah,
maybe not the most exciting fighter, but always been a good fighter. But once he started talking that shit, people are like, okay, we got to listen now. We got something here, and and so went the story. But it's part of the game, I guess.
it's I see it as a blessing and a curse because like I'm glad that so many more people are into combat sports now. Like before even back when I first started training, you like I couldn't talk to my other friends about anything. They didn't know who I was following UFC. They didn't know anything about jujitsu or Muay Thai or like they maybe knew some boxing, but that was about it. They didn't really but now it's so much more popular and it's so much more available to everybody that like I got friends coming to talking me, hey, you see the PFL fights, or I just started watching one on Amazon, or asking me about like my opinions on fighters and everything. And these are people like I knew like previous time didn't know shit about shit when it came to like MMA. It's now it's like I can talk to people about it. Like even the most random casual person knows a little bit something about combat sports or martial arts. On the flip side, you gotta have that thing to draw in the casual fan, the average person, and the hard workers and the pure martial artists, and they kind of get overlooked because they're not exciting, or they're not, sometimes a casual fan doesn't actually see what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you go back to right around like after the Ultimate Fighter first debuted in what '05. You have fighters like Matt Hughes. I mean, even GSP. You know, and you have these guys who are good fighters, hard workers, but they weren't really shit. The GSP talked a little bit of shit at Matt
Yeah,
Hughes,
but
but
Matt Hughes wasn't really about that.
yeah, Matt Hughes was like, "Look, I'm just a hard worker. You come in there, you know, and beat people's asses," and that wouldn't fly today. You know, it's like in the history of anything, what no matter what sport it is or industry it may be, there's always going to be kind of that lean towards what's new, what's recent. So you bring up Matt Hughes and Carlos Newton, when he power bombed him, a lot of kids don't know about that. They're like, oh, fortunately we have like UFC Fight Pass and ESPN Plus. There's availability to find these things. YouTube, you can find this stuff. But a lot of kids today, it's like, if they're watching the Matt Hughes fight, yes, he's kicking ass and he's great. He was one of the first fighters to really like, combine wrestling and kind of mix it all up
Yeah,
to a degree, and effectively at that. And it's like that's exciting, but folks like, yeah, but we want to hear him talk shit. And he's like, yeah, he's not about that though. He's just out there,
yeah, he wasn't. Yeah,
cracking skulls.
and we like that about him. He was just your good old, just American farm boy, just good
Yeah.
old wrestling boy in here, wrecking fools in UFC.
It's like now it's like, I remember when Connor fought Cowboy, and my buddy was
Yeah,
like, hey, you want to go over to Maryland Live and watch the fights? So, we went over there. They had a good little deal. I can't remember how much it was, but I know there's like a setup where you can get like all you can eat wings, or you get the all you can drink. And I was like, well, I'm not trying to get alcohol poisoning because you give me all you can drink. I'm getting my money's worth. But all you can eat wings, I mean, I went in on that. Like, I think I went up every 10 minutes and tried every flavor of wing. They had to be sick of me. It was like, yo, dude, chill. We only got so much. But we went to see that fight. And, as a fight fan, I'm watching the entire card. I want to see every fight on the card, like prelims, and
yeah.
everything. So,
No,
we
any fight card that I have the time to watch, because sometimes I work weekends, so I don't get to watch every fight. But
mm,
I start with the early prelims, and I'm switching between apps. I start with the early
mhm.
prelims on UFC Fight Pass, then I go to switch over to ESPN to watch those prelims or whatever channel it's on, and then I find I don't pay for pay per view. I find some way to watch pay per view. After that, so
Hey, Instagram, cats be streaming on Instagram all the time. Because when there's a card I'm not gonna pay for, I go straight. Oh, shit, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But now when we went out to that car though, it's like I'm sitting there like paying attention. And one of my old like coworkers, she was there. She like her ex boyfriend. He used to train, so she and I were both kind of in on like watching the cards. Whereas like
Yeah,
everybody else at the table with us, they're all they could talk about is like what Connor might do, Connor this, Connor that, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is a decent fight card though. Like there are other fun fights on this
yeah. Like
card.
look at everybody else. Like
Yeah, it's like, but I think that's kind of a thing from like old school, like boxing though too. It's like Tyson fights, Sugar Ray Leonard fights. It's like you want to see the main event, who's fighting in the main event. You don't care about those other fights. So like when it comes to like MMA though, like they set it up where like you get fights the entire card that are going to be worth something. They matter.
right.
Whereas like boxing, they do matter, but there's not really like an entertainment aspect of it. Like we had like the Ultimate Fighter where like you get to see the fighters living together in the house, and then they fight in the finale. You got fighters that may have had some static in the house, and now they're fighting on that card, and
Yeah,
shit
like
like that. So
I
like
feel like it's a lot more personable. I feel like in
yeah,
MMA, you kind of know more personal details about the fighters. That's not always the case with boxing, you know?
yeah, and I feel like watching boxing, it's like that's all they want to know is like, okay, Tyson Fury's in the main event. All right, that's what we're here to watch the Fury fight.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, that's cool and all. Like, because when we went to see Deontay Wilder versus Fury, I was watching the other fights on the card. Like
yeah.
everybody else is like talking, they're mingling, they're doing their shit, and I'm like I'm here to watch fights, man. It's like, and I feel like that's something that we have right now in this, the newer culture of the fight game. Is like, cats are there, like they want to see. It is usually, the casuals. Is like they want to see that main event. Oh, who's in the main event? Izzy's in the main event. Okay, we want to watch that. Connor's in the main event. We want to watch that. But they don't care about what's building up. Like UFC 300 from very beginning to very end.
From the opening like card, like from the prelim all the way to the yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's one of those cards where it's like you have to say to a casual fan, it's like, no, you got to see every fight on this card, because every fight, there might have been two fights that didn't really, it was kind of like, the action was a little lacking,
Yeah.
but every fight, the fighters came out and they delivered, you know, and it's like you get quite a few casuals that they don't look at that. They're just like, no, I just want to see that main event. I want to see you know maybe not even the main event, because they had the BMF title. Cats were all about that fight. They're
Yeah.
like, I heard more people talk about want to see that fight than they want the main event, which you know
I, I think what the UFC and what a lot of other promotions did well too with doing is that they had multiple belts on the line. As they started to
mhm,
grow with the weight classes, they would have multiple title fights, on one card. So you want
yeah,
to see, all right, we got the heavyweight, but what about the lightweight, or what about the strawweight, about the women's, bantamweight, Yeah, I think it kept it. You got a little more invested because you there was a. I feel like MMA is still so new that there's the group of fighters at the professional level is still small enough you can recognize a lot of them.
yeah,
There's not so many that you lose track of who everyone is.
yeah, definitely that for sure. Like there's I want to say PlayStation 3. Yeah, it was PlayStation 3. One of the UFC games, before it went to EA Sports. You can make your own event. Whenever I make my event, I'd always put
Oh, you can
all
still
the
do that.
belts on
Yeah,
the line.
I do that on UFC 5 sometimes.
It's like I want all the belts on the line. This event, this single event, and it was like, because that was always kind of my dream. It was like, if you can, put all the champions out there. If you can, like you're obviously going to be hurt in the upcoming events though, because now you don't have title fights. But it was like, fuck it, it's my video game. I'll do what I do. But when you start putting multiple titles on the line, whether it be two belts, or you add the BMF in there, so you got three belts on the line. There's incentive now, because there's like, okay, if you got like, what was it last spring, Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. It doesn't, that's not for a belt or anything, but that's an entertaining fight.
Yeah, like you want to see
Yeah,
those guys like go at it. Like,
yeah. Well, and that's kind of the thing with Chandler versus Connor coming up. It's like Chandler has never been in a boring fight that I've ever seen, at least. So it's like, okay, he's about to fight Connor, who I think this is a fight that's like perfect for Connor because
Yeah,
Chandler's a little reckless and Connor, he's calculated. So it is like, I got a feeling he's gonna knock Chandler
and
out.
I feel like it's almost part of his like game plan because think about any major fight Connor's ever had. There's always been some sort of delay. It's always been put off, or there's always been some sort of issue. Like even like to like from Aldo, pretty much every major fight he's had since Aldo, it's always been some sort of like hiccup. That
Hmm.
either delayed the fight or they had to change out an opponent real quick or like it was always been weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's that's I mean, I guess, he's the superstar of the UFC, for many years now. So, I think that's part of it too. Is like, look, we got to make conditions just right. Or it's not just right. I mean, the first time he was supposed to fight Aldo, some type of Aldo, and
Yeah,
he
Aldo got injured, so then Chad Mendez came in off like 2 weeks' notice.
yeah, and even with that, Mendez, was giving him trouble in the first round, but he gassed out and got stopped in the second. But the thing is, it's like, okay, this is now the beginning of that trend. You start seeing, okay, there's something here, up, there's a hiccup, and then he finally gets to his Aldo fight, and then he moves on to what Eddie Alvarez, moves up
Yeah,
lightweight. There's always something, a delay here or there. Even when Nate had to step in, it was because Rafael dos Anjos,
yeah.
I think, got injured.
But then,
So
that took off. So then they did it again, but then to them it's at a different way. So now he's changing weight classes, going up and down, and now he's
yeah,
like, oh, is he on steroids? Of course he was on steroids, but, then
of
he's,
course,
getting tested and all that stuff. And, his injuries and then, his, other like, financial ventures, just
yeah.
making
So
movies, making whiskey, suits, he's just, I feel like he knows what he's doing and it's
yeah,
working to his advantage. Cause again, even though like he may not be the champ right now, we're still talking about him. He's still making money. He's still a big name draw for the UFC.
yeah. I mean, if you put his name on the bill, people are showing up.
Yeah.
And that's actually why I didn't want him to be on 300, because it was like 300, you got to have a belt in the main event. But if Connor's on that card, he's in the main event.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it's like he can't fight for a belt, just considering. And it's like what he's going to be, I think, 303. He's going to
303, yeah.
be. So, I mean, and that's fine. It's International Fight Week. It should be a fun fight. I haven't looked at the card yet, but, it
Is
should be an
that the same
entertaining
card where
fight.
Poirier is fighting Makachev?
No, I think that's 302. So that's
And who else is on the
let's see here. If only there were a device. Let's see.
right? Something I
Um,
could just look up whatever I wanted, at any time.
yeah. Let's see here. UFC 303. Oh man, I for sure need to get my prescription fixed. All right, so we got Connor and Chandler main event. Joe Pfeiffer versus, oh, I cannot see, Mark Andre Barriot. Dude, I could never do Michael Buffer's job. They were like, fuck this guy. Jillian Robertson versus Michelle Waterson. We got two ladies fights on the main card here, back to back. Myra Silva, Macy. Man, look, Michael Buffer deserves the big bucks that he was getting before he retired. But basically, yeah, Cub Swanson and Andre Philly.
Okay.
Philly. So I mean the card, I'm gonna watch it. It looks funsies. Um, but I mean also, when you get, what you had on 300, you get kind of spoiled because 301 was like, ugh, not
Yeah.
watching that. And then it wasn't a terrible card. I didn't pay for it, but it wasn't a terrible card.
It's
But
just,
it's
it's
just,
kind of like, the after effect. You can't really like live up to,
yeah. So, but yeah, either way, it's like Connor, he moves the needle. So
yeah.
that's all there is to that. Um, but before we step out of here. It'd be horrible of us to sit here and chat and not bring up X-Men 97
Oh, dude,
because
of course, man. That was been my joy. I was just I'm going back and still I finished it and I'm going back and just watching like my favorite episodes. Like
yeah, I went back, I
just for
started.
like Magneto and Nightcrawler had the best quotes of the whole show.
Magneto, man, dude, like like they did something great with Magneto here. The whole series was great, but they made Magneto was super quotable this season.
Yeah.
Um, but not only that, it's like you're taking from the Trial of Magneto storyline in X-Men 200. So you're taking this Magneto that the world is like, this is public enemy number one, and he's like, look, you're right, I don't like y'all, I don't have any reason to like y'all, but just leave us alone. It's that simple. And it's like there's something about that with that character that you see where it's like, I look at it every day. It's like, look, just leave me be. Let me do my thing. I'm not gonna mess with you. You don't mess with me. And that's kind of how Magneto was, and they just couldn't leave him be. And
And it's so relevant. Like,
mhm,
call it what you want, whatever. But I mean, like it's saying things that need to be said in today's,
mhm,
age when it comes to, just people who are different and the way everybody treats everybody.
yeah, yeah. Like it's funny because it's like I think about the original X-Men animated series, and I loved it. But I did check out at about maybe late season 3, maybe season 4, somewhere.
Yeah, I want to say maybe after the Dark Phoenix, it gets a little like yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of like now during that time as a comic book fan, you're reading stories and you're watching a cartoon, and you're like,
Now, mind you,
I
I'm
wish.
at this point, I'm like a you know child. I'm like 6 years old,
Hey
maybe
man,
younger.
you don't gotta do me like that. You like you see, you don't even have to bring that up, man. Like they could have guessed, like, oh, maybe this guy's just wise. No, I'm old. I got a bad
Like,
head.
I was born when X-Men 92 premiered.
See, it was fate. But like I'm reading the books at this time, like, I just got done reading the Executioner song where, Cable and Strife, got their static, and they, all the stuff. It's like you're looking at these stories in the comics and you're watching the cartoons, like, man, I wish they'll adapt some of these stories to the show, and they
Or
never really.
things that they like have tried in movies and just didn't work, or things that just couldn't have been
Mhm.
put in the movie form anyway. We can get that in the yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't, and it was like, damn, dude. I mean, it was still a good show. I loved it, but
Because honestly, I would probably check out of an X-Men movie involving the Shi'ar Empire. Like
yeah,
I'm over it. I've
I
had enough Guardians. Like I'm just
so the Shi'ar Empire stories were always the ones I never bought. Like anytime it was like, oh, they're going to be dealing with space. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go read some Spider-Man books now. Like, I got some catching up to do with Peter Parker. But it's like there were stories that like you wanted to see adapted to the screen, and it never happened. And now with this series, you're seeing a lot. And they're weaving them together in such a way that it's like, it seems almost flawless. It's like you feel like some of these stories were meant to be together. Like again, the
the
Trial of
cameos are on
Magneto.
point too.
Oh yeah, the cameos. It just gives you the feels, man. God damn, I
Yeah.
love that show.
And I like
Um,
how somebody pointed out, like, look, you gotta remember, this is like early '90s. At this point, T'Chaka would have
mhm.
been the Black Panther. Like, it was not
Yeah,
T'Challa. Like,
yeah, and it took me a second because when they mentioned him, they said King T'Chaka. I was like, that's interesting. Oh yeah, I guess that does make sense because you forget this is 97, that this is all
yeah,
supposed to be happening. So when you look at like the stories that they're trying to pull from that period where you got Fatal Attractions happening, you got they're doing the Hellfire Gala, stuff.
yeah,
You got all these interesting stories that they're trying to figure out, how can we catch people up to current dates and then run potential stories from there, like potentially going to get Onslaught, potentially going to have Gamut as you know death, You know,
Yeah.
we're still, you got to figure out what's going to happen with Wolverine. I mean, and you know that he might even
Well,
get
so I've
made
been
into that.
reading, the comment sections, in various nerd groups and shit posting, pages I follow. Is that like, we're like, don't get me wrong, Wolverine's one of my favorite characters, but people are happy to have, an X-Men line that's not centered around Wolverine.
Hmm.
Because let's face all the movies were centered around Wolverine. Most of the series were centered around Wolverine. Early
I mean,
animated series was centered around him.
they had
And
Wolverine
so,
and the X Men.
they're branching out. Like I said, I think we're gonna get some X Factor. Some maybe some New Mutants.
Yeah, that was actually one thing I peeped as soon as I saw Roberto in the black and yellow suits. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's a New Mutant suit. So we could be leaning into that. And then when you see Forge in his workshop, you see the poster behind them. You see Havoc. It's like, okay, I could see them, bringing together a new X-Men team, because there was a period in the comics where um there was never really a consistent team, and it was, behind the scenes it was called Hunt for the X-Men. So you're
yeah.
trying to find your guys and gals to bring back and put like a real team together. So you'd have people like Strong Guy on the team, you just have random characters on the
Different,
team for
yeah.
the moment, because it would change from month to month. So they might go through a couple episodes where they do something like that, until we get our team back, and then you
I'd
could see
like
them.
to see a actually, they can do this because so they've introduced Doctor Strange and Carmitage.
Yeah.
I feel like they can, and Scarlet Witch is off world. I feel like they can do a House of
Yep.
M, an animated House of M, and then
I'm looking
we
forward
got
to
we
it.
got Cable, animated, Messiah. My favorite arc, is the Messiah, arc.
Yep.
Which I left that, finally branched out. I'm going into Civil War. I'm going back and doing the end. So how they did like individual, omnibuses or comics for different factions of the Marvel for Civil War. So
Yep.
just the ones I care about because they did so many. Like I'm just like there's a
Yeah.
X-Men one and the Wolverine one. I own the Black Panther, Civil War, little segment. But I'm exploring that now.
Yeah. Like the 2000s period of comic books got, they try to keep it cohesive, but it did get a little disjointed. And when you get stories like Civil War, that's where you kind of try to bring it all back together in a fold. But then you start kind of branching off again and just having these weird splits. I mean, they did another Age of Apocalypse, 10 years after, the original, and
Yeah,
it became another weird thing. And then, in the 2000, like,
I had to go back and
2015.
reread Secret Invasion to wash the taste of the show out of my mouth.
Oh yeah, that, like, so much potential that just was
It
wasted.
was just
And
ugh.
I yeah, and like I think when we, so what we do is, when there's a Marvel show on Disney Plus, it's a family event each week. We sit down after I get home from work, we watch. Secret Invasion was the one that I'd get home, we turn it on, and I take a nap. It
Yeah.
was just like, the first episode I was like, okay, I'm here. The second episode was like, you got me a little bit, but I think I'm like, you're losing me now. Third episode, it was just, all right, nap time. Then I think we skipped the fourth and the fifth one and watched all three. At the end, and even for that, I was just like, I'm like, my wife, she's well versed on all of it because she sat through it, she paid attention. I went to sleep. I was like, yeah, I'm not here for it. I don't even think we did a Nerdcast episode on Secret Invasion. It was just like, I don't know what the last Nerdcast episode was that was Disney Plus. I think we did a Marvel Legends one just for the toys. We might have did like a overall Disney Plus one, to kind of talk about all the shows. And then I asked my buddy Phil, who I normally do the Nerdcast episodes with, I was like, do you want to sit down and do an X-Men 97? And he was like, nah, I'm not interested in that one. There's so many other shows that we have to do before we get to X-Men. I was like, and he mentioned Echo, and I was like, yeah,
Eh,
I mean, I didn't hate
it's
Echo,
okay.
but I'm not. I'm not watching
They
it
pl-
again.
they, like they played up the Daredevil, cameo a little too much, and then I was disappointed the rest of the show.
Yeah, I mean, and that was just the problem. It was like, okay, you got us hyped for something that's not even going to, stick around. I think the last one we did was What If season 2. That was the last Nerdcast
I'm
one.
actually behind because I don't, it just got to be a little overwhelming. So, like I said,
Mhm.
I fell off around Moon Knight. Um,
And that's the
I watched
perfect spot.
watched half of Moon Knight. I watched half of She Hulk. I didn't even watch Miss Marvel. I watched a YouTube recap before I watched the Marvels, which again I wasn't impressed with that either. Um, then Guardians 3 I was like, wow, all right, that one was good. I like that one.
Yeah,
And
you know,
then Thor let me down.
I think it let the world down. Uh, like one of the things that I pointed out about the Disney acquisition of Star Wars and Marvel, we were excited in the beginning. We were getting our movies, we were getting our shows and everything, but it became too much. It
Yeah.
got oversaturated, and it's no longer an event. So,
Like I'm even
I
missing the good stuff. Like I haven't watched
yeah,
What If season 2 or Loki season 2, and those were supposed to be pretty good from what I understand.
yeah. Loki season 2, it's yeah, that was good. What If season 2? I like the way that they released it. They released a new episode every day over 9 days. I didn't hate it. I just feel like the first season, we got kind of it gelled into a story. The second season, there's some episodes I was just like, huh? Like, it just didn't seem like it fit the fold, but it wasn't terrible. It's just, I think, once we got X-Men 97, it felt like I've heard nothing but positive from everyone. And it felt like, again, it's an event. And then,
Which I've also been reading is just because people have like this disappointment from Disney. Like it actually has
Mhm.
pretty low ratings. Like and people just haven't been watching it because they just were expecting it to be shit when it's not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think right now with them only releasing Deadpool in theaters this year, I think it kind of takes us back to now these movies being events because
Yeah.
we Marvels was the last movie in theater, and like I went to see Marvels because the guys from work, the guys I provide care for, they wanted to see Marvels, so we went to see it. I didn't hate it. It was one of those things where it's like I went in with such low expectations. It's like, oh, this
Yeah.
is actually decent because I thought it was going to be the worst thing ever. And um, and then after that, it was like, okay, nothing. But I think they even had an article recently that said Bob Iger was like, look, we're going to dial back our shows and the movies. We're going to like not put out as much content because that
Yeah.
is starting to drown us. And you don't have an opportunity to miss anything. That's always been the thing about like the Marvel movies. When you get 2 per year, it was like you had an opportunity to breathe and really speculate and miss what's coming. But once you started getting a movie every other month, or a show even, it was like, oh my god, dude, can I digest what I just took in?
Especially now this home streaming service, you're like, all right, I'll get to it when I get to it. I
Mhm.
don't have to rush and get tickets and get the seat in the theater and wait and miss. I don't have to worry about the window. Like, hey, I can
Yeah,
log in on my phone, my TV, my smart device whenever I want to and check it out when I feel ready.
yeah. I mean, like looking at like the way X-Men 97 ended, I was like, damn, dude, I need more now. And I think that's
Yeah,
part of the problem. It's like that was so good, I need more now. But the problem with needing more now is like when the executives sense that and they start rushing out stuff and it's not fully cooked. So then you start getting trash, and then they start feeding you more and more trash. You're like, God, I don't need anymore. So it's like they do something like X-Men 97, end it the way that they did it, leaving us with so many different open storylines. Now we're excited. So and apparently it's already done season 2. They're just kind of in the post-production of it.
yeah.
So we probably will see it in the fall. And the thing is, that's perfect timing. It gets to feed us what we need. It gives us time to digest what we had, and pick up any literature that we may have missed over the
And then
years.
I'm pretty sure since Deadpool is traveling the multiverse, we'll probably touch on it at some point in the movie.
Hmm. Yeah, of course. Um, and
Which,
even with
bringing it full circle, I don't know if you remember in the Emmy nominated episode 5. Remember it right before
yeah,
the Sentinel attack. Did you notice the Watcher silhouette in the sky?
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
it's like, all right, so like this is a canon event. This is a Nexus event. Whatever. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you can't change it.
yeah. I mean, and that's the thing that like that's the big connector right there. Okay, so you got the Watcher there, you got our what ifs, and what if season 3 apparently has been done. So it's just I think I got a feeling that we get X-Men 97 this fall, and then right after that we get What If right around Christmas time again.
Okay.
And there'll be some sort of tie-in from X-Men 97. And then of course we have the Deadpool stuff, and that's going to be the only movie this year. So it's like, okay, we're in a good place right now. And I think next year we're going to get Thunderbolts, Captain America, and there was one other movie I believe they had um on the schedule. But
There's well, we got the Daredevil Born Again coming soon.
oh yeah, yeah. I think that's supposed to be like next January or February.
Yeah.
I mean they keep moving that though, but that was the last thing I believe I saw. So, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited for street level heroes, you
Yeah.
know, like not everything needs to be a fucking intergalactic battle. Like let's do
I'm ready to see like some Kingpin shit.
yeah. I mean, he's about to run for mayor, probably going to win it, and he's supposed to be the street level Thanos.
Yeah.
So I'm here for that shit, son. So let's do it. Um, but yeah, all in all, you know, all that shit's good as long as you give us space and give us time to breathe. When you start like making us watch a new show, every as soon as one ends, you give us another one in 2 weeks. It's like, dude, I don't know if I can keep doing this. Like I was almost at a point where I was ready to just check out. I was like, I
I
might be
think
done.
Amazon's done a good job with that. They space, I watched The Boys and Invincible, and I think they spaced it
Yeah,
out very adequately for like just enough for it to miss it, but like we don't completely forget about it. And so many storylines that left open ended at the end of each season that there's so many directions they can go.
yeah, yeah. I think like with the boys, that's one that I love the way that they do it because it's when the last season ended, it was like, oh, okay, what's next? All right, you got some time now. There's some time now. Now the new one starts next month, and it's like,
And I
oh,
like that they
whew.
get I like Gen V, it's pretty cool, and I like how they
Mhm.
kind of it's going to tie right into season 4. So
Yep. So I mean, they've got a good handle on things over there. Invincible. I need to catch up on Invincible. I haven't. I didn't watch season 2. Like,
it's all
I
right.
think there's a lot of content. Like that's all. That's kind of my biggest thing right now. Is like there's just too much content, and I've been saying that recently a lot. There's just too much
Yeah, because
content
there's that.
to
I
keep
think they
up.
just put out Fallout,
Yeah,
which I've never played the game. So that's the thing. I've like The Last of Us and Fallout. I never played the game, so I didn't really jump on it when they came out.
yeah,
Um,
same.
I've
And
been, I got really into Dune. When those movies came out. Actually, just a few. So like back to back to back, I had Dune, and then I rewatched Game of Thrones because we got House of the Dragon coming out, and
yep.
then I watched Shogun on Hulu, and I'm really into the
Okay.
whole like feudal lord and land system right now they got going on. Whether it's old school Japan and space, some made up. I really like the everybody's like out for their own agenda, kind of thing. You got to kind of play it smart because like not everybody's your friend, and I feel
Yeah.
like that's life.
And I like that they do that with shows though. In movies, it's like like growing up, you get a lot of stuff that was just very, very formulaic. Now, they're doing things where it's like, look, this is touching on real life. This is touching on stuff that we know. It's just kind of giving you a metaphor for it. And it's like, huh, like again, you look at X-Men, it's like that's X-Men has always done that though. X-Men has always been that show that has told a story, or not even just show, but the books have told a story of like, segregation, told a story of, bigotry, and you get people that look at that, even like lately, they're like, oh my god, they're making X-Men woke. It's like, dude, X-Men
Yeah.
was woke before woke
Like
was woke.
they're even very lightly touching on love and sexuality. Like there's some other
Yeah,
tones that like Morph kind of has a thing for Wolverine, or in like
yeah,
Cyclops accepts that he knows Jean loves Logan, and like Logan knows that like he can never have her, but they both it's weird. It's they're touching on the spectrum a little bit, and
yeah.
it's a dangerous line to walk, but they're brave enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit,
Yeah,
triangle, that's one that, they tiptoed around and then they just like crash right into it. It's like, look, let's just call it what it is. You see that, Magneto is the only one that can touch Rogue. And, Gambit, as much as he loves her and she loves him, that's not a thing. But, and then it even came back around because it was like, look, I mean, some things are, deeper than skin, you know,
yeah.
and it's like when you play that game, it's like, you got these stories where it's like, holy shit, this is so good. I mean, going back to the original series, it's like, okay, we were kids. This was a show meant for kids on Fox Saturday morning. And now, you got this show where it's like, hey, those kids grew up and we followed this show. And here we are
Yeah,
watching it. Sophie be watching it with us, and she likes the character. She follows, X-Men. She's down here in this basement looking at all these figures. She's got a bunch of her own already. And when she watches a cartoon, she picks up the immediate, like, I see these characters, I know they're doing this, and that's what she picks up. Whereas us as adults, we're picking up the other underlying stories, and it's entertainment for all. So good for Bo DeMayo and doing what he did. I don't know if they rehired him or what's going on there, but
I've
you know,
heard both sides. I'm not quite sure what's the truth.
bring that dude back if they haven't, because man, this is probably some of the best
I'm
Marvel
I'm I'm,
content.
I'm glad they didn't kill off Emma Frost either, because Scott Summers loves him a telepath.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, whether it be Psylocke, whether it be Emma, whether it be Jean, he love a chick that can get in
Madeline,
his
like
head. Yeah. I mean, it's like he loves the abuse, I guess. He's like, go ahead and get in there, girl. Tell me what I'm thinking. Um, but like there's so many stories that they're going to be able to juggle for, like, from within the past 30 years that they could put on this show, and it still makes sense and it's relevant. You know, I just want them to, dance gingerly around it and not, overload us, because
Well, there's already tension, with, you can see that like Captain America and Iron Man are there when they launch the nukes on the asteroid M,
oh
or
yeah.
when they're looking for Trask, Captain America and Rogue kind of have. So I think they're also kind of setting them an Avengers versus X-Men type deal.
Oh yeah, I could see it. I was just thinking about this morning. Um, you know, because we know that the mutants are in the MCU of some capacity, now.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, I was thinking about it and I was like, yo, what's gonna happen is like they're gonna have an encounter. Either one of two things will happen. Magneto, this will all blend over. Magneto's there, and then the Avengers are like, yo, we got to stop this dude. And X-Men are like, yo, he's our problem. Like, let us handle it. And then you get your, Avenger versus X-Men kind of battle there, or how it usually happens in most settings. Hey, these guys have powers. We got to fight them. You ain't even gonna stop and ask them, like, yo, what's up? Like,
Right.
y'all just see somebody in like a super suit and you say fight them. So animated or live action, I think, we will get to see Avengers versus X-Men in some capacity. And Chris Hemsworth did an interview not too long ago. I think he had mentioned something to the effect of like, knowing, like, we've always known that our characters were the B-level characters, and once the X-Men got into the MCU, we're going to take a back seat to them. So
Hey,
a lot of cats don't want to hear that these days, because over the last 15 years, everybody's done nothing but gobbled up Avengers content. But before these movies, nobody gave a shit about the Avengers. I mean,
nope. It was
I
all
remember when,
X-Men and Spider-Man.
yeah, when Iron Man hit theaters, I was like, I'm only seeing this because of Robert Downey Jr. I don't give a fuck about Iron Man. And after the movie, I was like, holy shit, I am a fan. Like, give me more content from Iron Man. Like, when you look back in the comics, it's like when you look at any of the major characters, it's like, what are some of their major storylines that, really, really spoke to, the general, and Iron Man had Demon in the Bottle, him
Yeah,
fighting his alcoholism, and then Armor Wars, those are the two big stories you can kind of pull from Iron Man. Captain America, I mean, I don't know. Incredible Hulk, Future Imperfect, World War Hulk, Planet Hulk, he's got some stories. Thor,
yeah,
but
yeah.
it's always been X-Men and Spider-Man, you know, for the comic book sales. So, once all this shit hits live action, the Avengers kind of take a little bit of a back seat, and those mutant characters start stepping up. So I'm
I mean,
looking
I
forward to
feel
that
like
shit.
people don't give enough. I mean, I feel like Blade, the original Wesley Snipes is what kept Marvel alive, Marvel
Oh
Studios
yeah,
alive.
yeah. It's like, because yeah, they actually had like Marvel films and shit, but they weren't like, like
No,
that
because
old
yeah,
Captain
like
America, Fantastic
I've saw
Four.
the old, Nick Fury with David Hasselhoff.
Jesus Christ, dude. The Punisher with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, dude, I forgot about
Yeah,
that one. Yeah,
like I wish I could. God, it was so bad. And the
really.
thing
Yeah, I've
is,
never. There's a Howard the Duck movie, which I don't know too
oh,
much about Howard the Duck, but
I hate Howard the Duck, dude. I hate Howard the Duck so much. Like, there's a Marvel legend that there's a Howard the Duck Marvel legend, and I'm just trying to do the build a figure. I don't want that fucking duck. And my daughter was like, "I'll take him." I was like, "You can have him." Like, I really just want to fucking launch him into space. I hate that character so much. But yeah, Marvel Studios just couldn't get it done. And then yeah, Blade came about. And I think the big thing with that was like you had to make a movie that spoke to the public, but also you had to make a movie that didn't seem like a comic book movie or a superhero movie. You had to trick people.
because DC Warner Brothers was pretty much top dog, killing it until
Oh yeah. Well, you know,
Batman, Superman, like that's all they needed. Like,
yeah, I mean, Batman and Superman were the thing, and then I mean, even when you look at like comic book content and turn it into movie properties, I mean, you had Superman, you had Batman, you had Ninja Turtles, and then Marvel just couldn't touch anything. I mean, they had the Incredible Hulk made for TV movies, the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, Death of the Incredible Hulk, where
yeah,
Daredevil came in, Thor came in, you had stuff like that, but those were still not really anything spectacular that you could put in a theater. And then once Blade hit, it was like, okay, we've got something. And then you get your Spider-Man,
well, I guess no. I
X-Men.
think didn't I guess X-Men came out in '99, right?
So that's always, I think it was 2000. What I think X-Men was 2000 and Spider-Man was 2002, I believe. Let's see if only there were a box.
Right,
Let's see
right.
here.
If only we had a device that could magically tell us.
Let's see here. So X-Men was 2000. Um and then Spider-Man, I believe, was 2002. Because like I know for me, I always thought Spider-Man was first. I don't know why, but I was like, dude, no, Spider-Man came out first for sure. Yeah, Spider-Man was 2002. Um, and then from that point, it just became comic book properties got hot.
Yeah.
We got Ghost Rider, Daredevil.
Oh, I forgot about Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it's oh man, like I don't know if I hated the first one, but that
Before
second one,
for
yeah,
what it is, when it first the first Fantastic Four movie with, I liked it. It was okay.
yeah, I enjoyed the first one. We just
Silver
watched
Surfer was
those.
trash.
Oh my god, we watched those like a couple weeks back just because it was a Saturday and I was bored, and I turned them on because sometimes I turn those movies on so I could just make jokes. And I didn't hate the first Fantastic Four movie. The second one, it was prime time joke making. It was just me sitting there just ragging on everything. And then the one with Michael B. Jordan, I like that movie if it wasn't Fantastic Four. If
Yeah,
it feels
could have been just
like
something else.
yeah, like
Nerds with space powers.
yeah, dude, I would have ate that shit up. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, nerds with space powers, like I'm gonna
dude.
see this. I'm
Actually, I
checking
went
that
back
out.
and watched Blast from the Chronicle.
Oh
You ever watched that?
yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
one.
that's
I
so
forgot
good.
about that one. I went back and watched that a while ago.
That's a good one. Yeah, I haven't watched it in a while. I remember like I rented at Redbox and then burned a copy of it, and I was like, holy shit, this movie's good. And like nobody talked about it, nobody knew about it.
But
And
it's
then
funny. Then they both end up in the MCU.
yeah, yeah, I mean, super irony.
Yeah,
Um and then another superhero type movie that wasn't a superhero movie, I guess, was Brightburn. It's basically the evil Superman.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. I never watched it, but I saw the trailers for it. I knew the premise.
like they set it up where they could make sequels. I hope they don't, because it was good on its own. And sometimes it's okay to leave a movie kind of floating where you're like, huh, I
Yeah,
wonder what if. Yeah, keep wondering. Like, let your imagination work. I think that's where we should stand with things. It's just, like Insidious. When Insidious ended, it ended in a way where it's like, oh my god, what's next? And they said they didn't intend to make a sequel, but
and
it
look
made
at them
money, and
now.
the studio said we got to make more. And I think they're coming up with a fifth one now next summer, like, or summer 2025. So it's like, fuck, dude, come on, knock it off. But it gives me
It's
content to talk about on the horror
it's the
podcast. So
it's the Fast and Furious of horror movies.
yeah, no shit. That's that. Fast and Furious is just Point Break with cars. That's all that
Yeah.
is. Like, and Point Break did it right because they stopped. They said, "Hey, we don't need to make another one." And people could say, "Well, it's because Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, they're more charismatic and they're better characters." Like, it's fucking Keanu Reeves and Patrick fucking Swayze. You don't
Yeah,
fucking get more like fucking charismatic and alpha as those fucking like Patrick Swayze as fucking Bodhi. Like, I don't even know like how to surf, but after watching that movie, he made me want to surf. I was like, dude, I gotta go learn how to surf. Like, I want to be cool like that dude. And I don't watch the Fast and Furious movies and say, man, I want to like drive cars like Vin Diesel and like go into space. No, like, I just say,
I'm good.
Jesus Christ, enough. Like, we don't need anymore. But all right. So I think, as I said, enough. I think people have probably had enough of us here. Like,
They're
shut
like,
the
all right,
fuck
you
up
guys
about
shut up.
fucking comics. We're tired of it.
This is how our
Yeah,
conversations in real life though. Like I remember like days just in the gym, everybody's gone home, and me and you were just standing there just talking about the same shit, like stuff like
yeah.
this.
That's why I try to explain. It's like, look, when I have folks on here that are my friends, like, you are genuinely listening to what we talk about in real life. So it's like, don't be shocked. Like when Mark comes, like, actually when Mark comes on, it's like the DMs that we send each other is like, yeah, okay, we can't really like those should be horrific. Like, they're just like horrible DMs that we send each other's like, Jesus
Oh, he's been
Christ.
bullying me lately. So actually, Mark's going to be in my corner for this fight. It's actually
Nice.
our MMA coach Cody, and then Mahoney and Mark are going to be my other two coaches in that corner. So, I mean, I
Oh,
couldn't
love
ask for
to
a
hear
better
it.
better fight crew.
That's fucking great. I love it. And actually, duh, before we get out of here, let's promote that fight and let everybody know where it's gonna be at and when.
Yeah, man. Stellar Fight 61, June 8th, in Harrington, Delaware, at the State Fairgrounds. Come through. I'm fighting for the lightweight title. It's been a long time coming, so I'm feeling good, feeling healthy, feeling strong. Shout out to all my teammates at Crazy 88. We got a good room. Like I mean, it's a high level room, and we all train like no matter what level you're at. Um, I'll got to plug in John's Fit Meals because that's pretty much all I eat right now while I'm cutting weight. A couple other, check me out at Mayweather Boxing and Fitness in Bowie, Maryland, or F45 training in Annapolis Harbor. If you want some personalized boxing or strength training. Other than that, man, yeah, just stay tuned. You can follow me on Instagram, Average Joe. Just turns the E to the number 3 at the end. And Joseph Huggins on everything else. Huggy Bear MMA. Thanks for the love and support.
I'll be sure to put your links in there, let everybody know where to find you at. And after here, I gotta get a ticket info from you because I'm going for sure. I'm trying to get my buddy to ride up with me. But thank you for that. And as always, folks listening, thank you. If y'all have any questions, concerns, criticisms, feel free to reach out. You can find me at bjj.wiki on Instagram, or you can also find me on Off the Mats Podcast on Instagram. You can email me offthemats2020 at gmail.com. See, I remember this time y'all thought I wasn't going to, but I got cue cards over here. I want to give a big shout out to my crew over there at Nerd Rage Radio, Bobby, Chris, Joe, Ricky, Tiki, Marilyn, Phil, all those cats over there. Love you guys to death. If it wasn't for Nerd Rage Radio, I wouldn't be doing podcasts. So, thank you to those guys. But if you don't like my podcast, then go blame them. It's their fault. But, either way, hey, actually, if you don't like my podcast, why are you listening? Why are you this far?
Yeah,
Fuck
just
y'all. But I know y'all love it. Also want to give a shout out to my other podcast there. So you like horror. If you like scary movies and shit, go listen to it. I don't even know where we at right now on the chapters. I might have talked to David A. Roberts, the director of Older Gods. I don't know. We might be doing the Crow episode. I can't remember. I don't know. So go check it out, though. It's fun times. I know the last thing I recall recording was horror comedy. So we talked about just a connection between comedy and horror and how those two genres merge every so often. So go check it out. Have a good time with it. And yeah, leave a review too. Motherfuckers don't be leaving no reviews anymore. Leave some reviews so I can read them out on air, because we like good reviews. Don't be leaving no bad reviews. You got some bad reviews, email me at offthemats2020 at gmail and tell me how you really feel. And I won't care. And then last but not least, let me give a big shout out here to my guest here and my teammate and good friend, Joseph Huggins. Be sure to check him out on social media here on Instagram. I'll get to the links there for you. And, if you're in the area, come check him out at the fights down there in Delaware. We'll again get you connected. If you need some tickets, reach out to him. And he's sure to put on a show for you, because I've never seen this dude not have an exciting fight or an exciting round in the gym. So, he's there to bring the action. So,
I know how
big
to
shout
turn it
out to
up, baby.
Joe.
Don't worry.
Hey, like we said, the fight game's about entertainment. It's also about winning. Right? He was like, look, I'm gonna entertain and win. So,
Yeah.
Big shout outs here and thank you again. And as always, everybody listening, we love you. You guys keep listening, and we're definitely gonna keep making these shows. Thank you, everybody, and good. Bye.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.